I'd like to invite Mr. Trivinij. Are you here?
สวัสดีครับอยู่ครับผม
สวัสดีค่ะ
ครับเริ่มเลยไหมครับ
Should we just start then?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
Me
meet you
too.
too. Okay. Shall we will start. Okay.
Yes.
Let me share the presentation.
Oh, you have presentation. I'm looking forward.
สวัสดีครับผมไตรวินิตตู้จินดานะครับมาจากบริษัท
Hello everyone, I am Trivinij Tuchinda and I come from Prime Road Power. Actually, we are a listing company and we invest in clean energy. So whether it be solar energy and other energy, for solar energy, actually we have invested for like 10 years already and we are the pioneer in Thailand. Now for Prime Road Power, we have two main management. First is Mr. Somprasong. He is the CEO and another one is CFO. And our company has been founded since 2010 actually. And we have gotten many projects in Thailand. Back in the old days, it's called Adder. And so we have gotten a lot of these projects. And it requires a lot of investment because it can need up to 120 to 140 million Thai baht. And so normally for normal electricity, we sell at only 3-4 baht per unit, but with the adder project, we can add on 8 Thai baht per unit. So that's way more. So once we invest, we need to spend like 8-9 years before it break even. So we have gotten a lot of projects from the government. And so the adder price becomes lower from 8 baht to like 6.5 Thai baht, and then we start to get free tariff. And so it's like they lock the price for 25 years. At first it was locked for only 10 years, but then it become 25 years. And then we got another project for another 40 megawatt. And then since 2019, we have been listed in Thai Stock Exchange. And so we are thinking that we'll focus on this clean energy for a long time. And when we say clean energy, it is not only limited to solar energy, but it includes wind energy, biomass energy, and also waste to energy projects. So here is our portfolio. So we have many solar farms. In Thailand, we have 132.3 megawatt actually. So we have in Ayutthaya and Pathum Thani in the central Thailand. We also have in Ratchaburi. In northern part, we have in Kamphaeng Phet and Sukhothai. And northeastern, we have Nong Khai. In the south, we have Trang and Krabi. So basically separated all around Thailand. And we start to sell electricity to Japan, Taiwan, and Cambodia. I will just explain each of the project we have gotten. So adder scheme. I mentioned about adder project before. Like I say, we have gotten adder projects since 2011 from government, and we start to sell electricity since 2013. And at first our contract lasts for 10 years. And then at first we got 72 megawatt contract, but then our install capacity reached 91.7 megawatts. So it was a huge project. And we also took over another project in Nong Khai province. This is quite small actually. The install capacity is only 1.2 megawatt, and then another one here. So we told you that the adder scheme ended, right? So we got another project and it is feed-in tariff scheme. And feed-in tariff scheme consists of 8 to 9 projects. And for this one, we pay 4.12 to 5.66 baht per kilowatt. And abroad, here we have Japan. So Pram is the first country that we start to open market in Japan. So at first in Thailand, it seems like solar energy is not really that popular. So we start to do contracts in Japan. And also in Taiwan, we are one of the first company that sell energy there. And so we do this. So you can see our solar cell is along the canal. So they actually don't have a lot of area. And so that's why we do it over the canal just like that.
ของเขาในเฟส2เนี่ยก็ที่ทำเพิ่มมาก็อีกประมาณ 4.2 เหรียญของที่ไต้หวันนะครับ
And so you can see that it's getting bigger and here are some of the photos. And also we have another project. This one is in Kaohsiung Schools project. And so we install it at the school, and for COD is supposed to be by the second quarter of this year. And this is another project that we have in Taiwan. At first, when we go into Taiwan, we started with the wind energy project. But then we start to expand, and then we had more solar energy project. For example, this one is fish farm project. So you can see the solar panel are over the fish farm. And so for this one, the fish farm has not been constructed yet, but our solar panels are going to be over the fish farm when it's done. And here are some of the examples, but our biggest project as of right now, it is the project in Cambodia. And we have 78 megawatt project here. So at first it was 68 megawatt, but then we expanded and we make it bigger. And so this one is by facial and tracking. This one, we won the international bid. So a lot of other international companies also try bidding for this project, but we won it. And this one, we basically got the electricity selling price as 0.03877 USD per kilowatt. And this one, it should COD by Q4 of this year. So there are many progress on this project. And also, right now in Thailand, the government does not allow more quotas for solar farm right now.
ทำเป็นในแบบในรูปที่เป็นแบบไฮบริดเฟิร์มอะไร
And perhaps it may come in terms of hybrid firm or things like that more. However, we have solar rooftop. So we have the new sub-company. And we have experience doing solar rooftop for at least 6 years now. We partner with another company. And so we work together. And in 2020, we have finished 15 megawatt in installed capacity, and we have gotten the revenue of 300 million Thai baht. And we have many big companies in Thailand. You are probably familiarized with these.
ลูกค้าที่ทำเกี่ยวกับธุรกิจอาหารต่างๆก็ติดตั้งระบบโซล่าเราก็ไปติดตั้งให้กับเขานะครับผมรวมถึงมีการทำตัว private
And
PPA
also for private PPA
Power Purchasing Agreement นะครับเราก็มีไปทำให้กับกลุ่มใหญ่ๆหลายบริษัทนะครับกลุ่ม MBK ที่เป็นเจ้าของห้าง
we have MBK. You probably know this is a very well-known department store in Thailand. So we also set the solar cell for them, and then they are also สิริเวช จันทบุรี the 9 Central Ramanai and TRPH as well. So you can see that we have done many projects for both the department stores and also the hospitals. Now for other technology, other projects, we also have many government agencies that hire us to do that. Whether it be the Thai electricity or other ones, they ask us to design their system. And here are our projects in the pipeline. So we have the Taiwan project, the one we show you, we have in other places as well. And also we will acquire other solar farms to expand our portfolio. And we also have waste to energy projects like here in Thailand. And we have like 4 to 5 projects already. We really think that we will be able to secure these projects in Thailand. And also we have gotten another award, and it is the project in Sri Lanka. That's another 100 megawatt. However, it may get bigger. It may be more than 100 megawatt. And we also have waste to energy project in Pakistan. And so for Pram Road, that's pretty much. Though I would like to add a little bit more about other information in Thailand. Give me some time to change my slide.
โอเคครับผมก็
All right. So as of right now,
ในโลกนี้ครับทุกประเทศเนี่ยต่างก็คิดว่ามันจะต้องมีตัว energy transition.
a lot of people think that there will be energy transition, right? So back in the old days, we use a lot of gas, use a lot of fossil fuel or others. But right now, a lot of countries are using clean energy, and Reuters Events and Deloitte also have come up with energy transition trend reports in 2022. And we can see that solar is the top one right now. So you can see from this report, and that's really strong trend. And you can see that right now, wind power and solar PV, they really have potential to become one of the main clean energy. So you can see that in many countries right now, wind and solar energies are the hope of the people. And also, in order for us to calculate LCOE, right now in Sweden, they have already calculated, and they say that with solar energy, they can make it as low as 0.02737 per kilowatt. So it's very, very low, and that's really interesting. And now let's have a look at the potential of photovoltaic power in Thailand. So for Thailand, we have to say that we have medium level of potential. However, we do have a lot of sunshine. And in Thailand, we have a lot of heat, especially in central Thailand and northeastern Thailand. They are the target for many of the solar energy company that they want to have solar cell farm there. But it doesn't mean that in other province, the sunshine is not that strong, because we have to say overall in Thailand, the sun is strong anywhere. And now let's have a look at the electricity unit price. Right now, in Thailand, you have to pay 3.7 Thai baht per unit. Though the Central Electricity Authority, they will set the price for everyone. And all along, FT may be negative, but as of right now, the Thai Authority of Electricity have increased. So right now you can see that the price is really high.
หรือกำหนดในส่วนของค่า FT เนี่ยเขาก็คำนวณมาแล้วครับว่าในช่วงที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยตั้งแต่ควอเตอร์ 4 ปีที่แล้วนะครับ
They are the one who set the FT. So you can see that EGAT have to buy the power or gas or fossil fuel from abroad, and the price has jacked up a lot. And so that's why the electricity price from 3-ish have become 3.7, and right now it has already reached 4 Thai baht. Also, the gas price right now has increased a lot as well. Now, the FT price, the expected FT price during quarter 2 and 3 is supposed to reach 1.3 Thai baht, but they are trying to lower that price so that it would not affect the people that much.
เป็นตัวเลขที่มันจะต้องแอคคุมไปในอนาคตนะครับก็คือ
But of course, this number is going to accumulate as time goes by. And so FT will keep on being positive for 2-3 years after this.
คณะกรรมการกำกับกิจการพลังงานเนี่ยคาดคะเนว่าในช่วงประมาณกลางปีหน้าเนี่ย
And we have estimated that eventually FT will reach 1.1 Thai baht, which is very expensive.
เมื่อเทียบกับช่วงปกติในช่วงก่อนหน้านี้มันจะปรับขึ้น
And it means that our electricity price will increase by 30%. And a lot of private companies will now want to use solar panel to save the cost. And now I would like to touch on the equipment that we need to use. Here we have the modules, and we only use tier 1 solar panel. You may ask where does tier 1 come from and what are the criteria. I have to say that Bloomberg are the company that would be the one assessing our financial strength. So they would say that the criteria for companies that would stay in this industry for a long time or would be able to stay for a long time would need to be the one who can produce and can sell. So have to do everything, have to be one-stop service. And also that company would have to invest a lot in R&D. 3, they need to have advanced technology with high quality. And 4, they have to have over 5 years experience in the industry. And that is why we are in tier 1. And so let's have a look here. Bloomberg will always announce every quarter. So in 1 year, they announce 4 times every quarter, right? And you can see these are the solar panel players in the market, and you get to see the sales volume. During the last 3 months in quarter 1, you can see that many brands are doing well. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So basically, overall, there are like 30 brands. Some brands have very high volume. For example, Trivinij Solar, our sponsor, within 3 months, they can sell 50,000 megawatt already. Or Teerasak, Suntech, Bryson, JA, and Canadian Solar, Longji. They are very famous. Lipton are also famous. And they are all in tier 1. Even though during the past period, we are investors who invest in solar, but the cost of investment has increased a lot because of the fluctuation of currency and also other expenses. For example, last year, we have to pay a lot of shipment fee. However, if you look at the graph here, you see that the trend of solar cell has been going down. And so right now is a great time to invest in solar. And now for the solar cell, solar panel. Like Trivinij Solar. Trivinij is one of the first company that have very huge
ก็จะมีหลายรุ่นให้เรา
solar panel. They also have many modules for us to choose. So I'll just let you have an overview real quick.
แบบไหนและโรงงาน
So you can
ติดตั้ง
get to
ตามบ้าน
see
นะครับเราก็จะต้อง
here.
เลือกให้มันเหมาะสมนะครับ
So you have to know whether it is for residential use or commercial use.
ในแผงที่น่าจะเป็นรุ่นที่ยอดนิยมตอนนี้ก็อาจจะประมาณ500
And as of right now,
ที่ประมาณ
perhaps
20
the most common
50 นะครับ
use one would be 500 megawatt one.
ในการรับประกันอยู่ที่ประมาณ12 ปีสำหรับตัว product
And
นะครับแล้วก็
right now, most of them,
power output warranty
they have like
ค่อนข้างจะเท่ากันทั้งหมดนะครับ
12-year warranty for materials and processing and 25 years warranty for other parts. And now the warranty for the power output, it will keep on degrading. And we can see that over 25 years, the value still can work at 84%, so it's quite high.
นะครับอันนี้ก็จะเป็นตัว characteristic ของตัวแผงนะครับ
And this is the characteristic of the panel. The yield is around 20%.
ตอนนี้นะครับตอนนี้ก็เริ่มมีคนหันมาสนใจแผงที่เป็น
And right now, a lot of people are starting to be interested in N-type. It's becoming more and more popular.
ตัววัตต์ของเขาก็คือก็จะเพิ่มขึ้นจาก
And the watt has increased from 500 to 555 to 590 to 610. And for degradation, a lot of brands have claimed that the degradation has gone down from 0.5 to 0.4 only, and they guarantee for over 30 years that over 30 years, their capacity can still work at 87%. So that's very high. So that's all from Prime Company. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Trivinij, for your wonderful presentations. So next one, I would like to invite Mr. Teerasak Lee, project manager from EDL. Hi, Teerasak, I hear.
ครับสวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ
ครับสวัสดีครับผมธีรศักดิ์เดี๋ยวขออนุญาตแชร์สกรีน
Can you turn your camera?
Hello, I'm Teerasak.
Turn on your camera.
เดี๋ยวขออนุญาตแชร์สกรีนนะครับ
Can I share screen, please?
โอเคไม่ค่อยสะดวกเลย
I'm not convenient to turn on camera, sorry.
โอเคสวัสดีครับ
Well, hello.
สวัสดีครับ
Hello.
Can you turn your camera? We cannot see your face.
อ๋อ ไม่ค่อยสะดวกเลยครับ
He said he is really not convenient to turn on camera, sorry.
ฮัลโหลครับ
Well, can you hear us now?
โอเคครับ ครับผมธีรศักดิ์ครับ
Well, I'm Teerasak,
มาจากบริษัท EDL
and
ซึ่งเป็น
I am from EDL Gen Solar. So we also manufacture solar cell in Laos, and we established since December 18, 2015. And we cooperate with other company in Laos, and we become EDL Gen Solar. And in total, we have finished 100 megawatt, and we have projects until 2027, 2028. And as of this year, 2022, we are doing 32 megawatt,
ประมาณเดือน6 ถึงเดือน 7
and we will COD in June and July this year. And the last phase is 36 megawatt. We plan to COD in 2023 and 2024.
พื้นที่
And these are the locations of our projects. So you can see that it's in Vientiane, which is the capital of Laos. And we have 7 projects in 5 locations. First one is in Nasai Thong, and capacity is total 4.8 megawatt. We have 2 phases. First one is 3 megawatt. Second one is 1.8 megawatt, add up to 4.8. And it would connect to Laos electricity system. So this one, we have sold it since 2017. Second project, Nabong solar power plant. So total capacity is 15 megawatt. So also there are 2 phases. First one, 7 megawatt. Second phase, 8 megawatt. And the third project is Sang Thong solar power plant. This one is in Laos. And that's Tran Moon solar power plant. There's also Nam Ham solar power plant. And these ones we have already sold to Laos electricity. And next one, this is phase 2, another 32 megawatt, right? So we also have in Vientiane, we have in other ones, we have 3 main projects for the second phase, like I showed you. So let's have a look what projects we have. So first one, second one, third one, so you can see fourth one. We think that within a month or 2, we should have COD already. And now last one, phase 3. We say phase 3 with installed capacity of 36 megawatt. It will be in Vientiane, capital Vientiane, and Luang Prabang province. We plan to COD within 2023 or 2024. And we would have some in Vientiane, some in Luang Prabang. All right. So for EDL Gen Solar Power, that's all from us.
Hey, Jake, I think I leave my floor to you. It's just conclusion.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. So it's a real pleasure for me to join Energy Box on another panel. As Jessica mentioned, we're old friends, and very good to be back presenting on an interesting topic. You know, Thailand is a particularly important issue for me. I've lived in Bangkok for quite a long time, for about 25 years working in this sector, and really happy to have an opportunity to share my views. Although I probably have to apologize in advance that my perspective on the future, probably like everyone else's, is not going to be a completely clear pathway that removes all barriers or removes all doubt. I think what happens next in Thailand is still uncertain, and has been uncertain for some time. Although, as some of the earlier speakers, Trivinij in particular mentioned, there are some reasons to be optimistic. I don't have any slides today. I'm just going to talk. I apologize for that. I hope I can make my message clear, but I'll also be very happy to take any questions and answers or discuss any of these issues in more detail. I may take a minute by starting off and introducing myself. As I said, I have lived in Thailand for about 25 years. I've worked with consulting firms, with investment banks, development agencies. I had a very broad exposure across the clean energy, climate, energy transition sector. And most of my focus has been on growth strategy, development, investment, and finance in the sector. Over the last 3 or 4 years, I've been with some partners, run a company called Vector Energy Advisory. We're really a specialist firm that does strategy and does transaction advisory in the renewable sector exclusively and in ASEAN exclusively. And most of our work over the last few years has been along the lines of some of the things Trivinij was talking about in terms of the solar rooftop industry, which really has been probably the shining light of renewables in Thailand. Much more capacity has been brought on by the private sector in solar rooftops and has been brought on by government policies and programs. I'm going to take a minute and talk a bit about the history of Thailand. And I think that the background is actually quite useful to understand in terms of looking at the future. And just to leave off with saying that over my time, I've worked in almost all of these different segments and different periods, from some of the early biomass and biogas projects, worked through the ground mount solar, worked on some of the wind projects, then again, some extensive work now on the behind the meter industrial side work. So my view will be that of a generalist, of an observer, and my goal will be to try to get the audience to see some insights on the ground, what we do understand, what we don't understand about the market here. I do also want to acknowledge that both of the Thai speakers are on the ground. They're probably better connected than I am, may have more insights and more information. If I say anything that anyone disagrees with or you'd like to correct, please feel free, or like to add anything to what I say. I certainly probably don't have quite the insights that you do. And again, we'll be very happy to share opinions and have you add anything at all. I did want to take a minute and talk about the Prime Road presentation in terms of giving a picture of where a lot of Thai companies are. As Kun Trivinij mentioned, Prime Road is one of the most connected companies in Thailand, an extremely early mover with one of the larger projects that was then with Equus, sold to Vina, but really one of the first companies out in the market. But as Kun Trivinij mentioned, the market at some point in the last decade became, I think you used the word ning, or quite still, with not very much happening. And so you heard that although Prime Road has been working extremely hard to develop the business, a lot of that work was overseas. The Cambodia project with ADB was very impressive. The Prime Road was an early mover in Japan. But all of that was because the Thai market has been quiet. And I think this is a very similar experience to other companies. All the large Thai industrial players, a B. Grimm, a Banpu, Bongjak, Raj, Edgeco, others, really have been spending more of their time developing overseas projects than Thai projects. And so I think for some time, observers such as myself have been saying that the Thai market is in a period of a pause, that there are not huge opportunities. And I think that has been the case. What I'd like to do right now is take a look at where we are and see how that may change. I do think Kun Trivinij provided some optimistic background, sort of implying we don't know what the future will bring on some of the solar, and that some things could come on, but also talked about the economics driving solar power in Thailand. And so I think there's a reason for optimism. Across ASEAN, countries come and go in terms of attractiveness. Thailand was one of the first attractive countries. At times, the Philippines looked to be attractive. Vietnam obviously came on as the regional rock star, but Vietnam is slowing a bit. So the message I would leave on that is that countries do come on and off the radar. I think this is a cyclical market. It's an inflection point market. And so although Thailand has been quiet, there are a lot of reasons to think that could change, probably gradually, but there are reasons to think some things could be happening now. As I mentioned, I'm going to go back to some of the history of Thailand because I think it is important. And I'll start almost in pre-2010, which at this point I think is sort of ancient history. But I think it's important to realize that Thailand had a very strong and capable energy sector regulatory structure, very respected agencies and entities across the board. And energy security was one of the driving motives for Thailand. So having control over Thailand's energy supply as an energy importer was very important to the economy and culture of the country. At that time, a lot of programs were put in place around energy efficiency. There were funds put in place. And one thing that's probably undercovered is the success of biomass power in Thailand. Originally growing off of rice husks, of sugarcane, in-house systems that have very large volumes. I think going back as far as 2010 or that time period, around 2 or 3% of power was generated by rice husk power, by sugarcane power. A lot of smaller projects came on, as I keep saying, rice husks. A lot of those were fueled by rice husk. So Thailand had a massive success in biomass power. And that percentage of what I said of 3% back then is probably up closer to 5 or more now. And so Thailand does have a very large contribution from biomass power and a huge success there. You know, in 2009, lasted to about 2013, Thailand had a massive solar boom and really led the region. You know, about 10 years ago, I was speaking at conferences about how Thailand was the regional leader in ASEAN, the fantastic opportunities here. And that was the time when, you know, Prime Road was able to develop a over 100 megawatt project that is still operating. And that's where a lot of the Thai companies built their capabilities. You know, soon after that, there was a smaller burst of wind, and Thai companies built their capabilities there. But to date, most of the success or the capabilities of that the Thai companies have developed, they have taken overseas. I think Thais are probably as significant, as important investor in Vietnam as any other country. They're more, I think Thais own more megawatts of wind and solar, or as many as any other investor in Vietnam. And so I do think the story, you can't say it enough or can't emphasize enough that the story has been that despite Thailand's early boom, its leadership in the market, the importance of it from an energy security perspective, the real Thai boost and the greatest experience on the Thai private sector side has been like Prime Road in overseas countries. You know, one big reason for that, you know, is that Thailand always has been a gas-based economy. For many years after the development in the Gulf of Thailand, in Myanmar, in the Malaysia Joint Concession Area, Thailand was able to fuel its industrial growth through gas, and gas provided most of the answers for what Thailand needed. Over the last 5 or 6 years, it became clear that all those resources were running out and that Thailand was effectively out of gas. And a major priority of the Thai agencies has been to transition the Thai system from a piped gas-based system to an LNG system. That's required massive planning, massive capabilities in procurement, changes in regulations, and massive infrastructure development. So up until the last few years, in my mind, the major motive of Thai agencies, of the Thai government, of Thai regulations, was to rebuild the gas supply. And so it was logical that renewable energy slipped to the back burner a little bit. But a lot of people, myself included, were saying at that time, and have been saying since that time, that large-scale, well-constructed wind or solar projects are, broadly speaking, cheaper than the offset cost of natural gas. So Thailand has always been able to bring these projects on at no real new unique cost. The economics have worked for wind and solar. And so I think there's been a lot of hope that because the economics were supportive in that way, that Thailand would at least bring on a steady state of maybe a couple of 100 megawatts a year or so, but that Thailand has always been able to, from an economic standpoint, from a system standpoint, bring on a lot of renewable energy. And it really does seem to have been a no-brainer. I think any renewable energy that had been developed over the last 3 or 4 years, you know, in sort of large, well-constructed projects, either wind or solar, would certainly be less expensive than the cost of gas right now, and would be helping to buffer some of the issues we've seen about the rising energy costs and the rising FT. Also, as Kun Trivinij mentioned, we're just seeing the first FT increase. The fuel adjustment just came through. That was the first one in several years. I expect there'll be quite a few more. Thailand obviously does have huge exposure to global LNG markets, and Thailand is thought to have quite a lot of exposure to spot markets. And when we've seen now what's happened to LNG markets around the world, you can certainly see the impact of the pricing on any country with a massive spot exposure. To take a look to narrow my discussion a bit more to Thailand, I think I almost encourage the audience to maybe participate with me in a bit of detective work and try to figure out, what the tea leaves show, what the future will be. And I think there's a lot of range for different people to have different opinions. The future for Thailand, I don't think is clear at all. And I don't think, we've heard a real clear picture. As I said, I've been here for many years, and I don't feel that I have could really lay out a roadmap of this is exactly what's going to happen. I did mention that on both the wind and solar fronts, to some degree, everything is lined up to work. There are no barriers that stop the policies from moving ahead and putting out, new quotas for wind and solar. In my mind, the real entire barrier has been a policy one. It has been with the policymakers. And so although there have been discussions about quotas and some things active right now that I'll talk about in a minute, absent new quotas, absent new direction from the government, large scale utility programs, ground mount solar, large utility scale wind really is stuck. There's nothing you can do. There's no way to sell. And so I think the issue here is that Thailand does seem to some degree to lack that political will. So over the last few years, the large ground mount programs have been still for both wind and solar. I think there's been a lot of hope around waste to energy, but waste to energy is probably 100 megawatt business, a couple of a year. Doesn't have the size. A lot of the early opportunities have been taken up in waste energy and biomass, and I don't see that as being able to contribute the level of carbon-free power that you could get from wind and solar. So it really is still a waiting period. I should highlight also, as Trivinij talked about, solar rooftops have been a really unique bright spot for Thailand. Thailand, has several gigawatts of rooftop projects. They're almost all put in place now on commercial and industrial facilities. So they're all on factory rooftops, so the vast majority are. The vast majority are put in place with no subsidies at all. These are projects that work on a commercial basis. The companies, rooftops can either invest themselves and get attractive returns, or can go to a wide range of providers everywhere from large state companies like Gulf and Gangoon have entered the business. Total, Cleantech, Shell, Green Yellow, Constant Energy, a huge range of companies that will finance, own, and operate those projects at no cost. And that's been a huge success. And companies, both Thai and international, have embraced that. And on the one hand, I think it's very attractive because it offers, and the reason I'll explain why I bring this up in a minute, it brings the prospects of sustainability for free, effectively. Companies don't need to invest or don't need to take on money-losing projects. They can get the full carbon benefits of solar rooftops really at no cost. And that's what has driven this. Manufacturers, companies primarily with customer exposure, have needed to show that they're green, have put in place corporate policies. And those corporate policies, combined with the ability to put on rooftop solar at no cost, really did drive a boom here. And it's a boom that we've seen now in Vietnam as well. As I mentioned, I think the reason I bring up the idea of sustainability for free is I do think that is also what Thailand government has, that opportunity, that the country could put into place, several hundred, each year, probably, hundreds of megawatts or gigawatts of solar and wind combined, that really would not provide any new cost to the ratepayers. And so I think there's a lot of hope that will happen. I do think the drivers of that include the success in procuring LNG, that LNG is now de-risked. The country has successfully contracted LNG, built infrastructure, and adjusted the system so that there's the energy security concerns that distracted the policymakers are now gone. LNG is no longer a burning issue, but what it is doing is driving up prices and making renewables more attractive. Again, I think in the modern environment, it's very clear now that well-designed renewable programs would be cheaper than the offset cost of gas. And I think it should be a lesson that had these been put in place 2 or 3 years ago, they would in fact be saving the country money right now. I'll take just a minute before I wrap up and talk about a couple of specific things that could possibly be positive. There have been rumors for some time bouncing around that Thailand will come up with a new wind quota. It seems to me that this is sort of solid enough that it will happen at some point. The numbers are somewhat speculative. I've heard anywhere up to about 1.5 gigawatts, but I think, and I'm very happy to have any feedback or corrections from the Thai panelists, but I think there's a reasonably good chance that a new wind quota does come into place. The sites are fairly attractive to some certain scale. Very large, important Thai companies have large assets, large development. So it's very easy, I think, for the country to move, to give them the business and let them move ahead with projects that have been planned for some time. There's also some news of a recent National Energy Policy Committee meeting. We've seen what either correctly or not, maybe some leaked new tariffs. I don't know if those are accurate, but it does appear that they're discussing a new tariff program, a possible increase to the forecast amount of renewable energy in the PDP. So whether something specific will come out of that, whether we'll see a wind quota, whether we'll see any movement on solar, whether we'll see any new prices, it is really up for the future to say. But I do think the combination of favorable economics and the fact that we're seeing some meetings and action on the ground are a positive indicator. I do think the prospects for Thailand to come back to the renewable energy game and look to develop some utility scale solar, some utility scale wind exist. I think rooftops have been successful, but are not competing. I think some things like the floating solar and so forth are excellent projects, but have limited capacity. So I'm hoping there's some prospects for optimism. But I think the way I'll leave off this conversation is to say that I don't think there's a clear answer. I can't tell you what will happen in Thailand. I think we could all be surprised. I hope it's on the positive side, and certainly I'm open to any feedback or comments from either the Thai speakers, or very happy to take questions from the audience or anyone else. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.